now? He'll see later.
Now
And
it's
he goes
going
like,
live soon.
yeah. Hi everyone, welcome back to our session, track 2 visual. Hope you had a good lunch, enjoyed yourself, good break. And now we are back to our next session with a speaker over here, Beyer. Very exciting topic. I'm sure everyone's like, I'm sure everyone's really looking forward to your session, Simon. So we're going to be covering this topic about Facebook and Instagram strategies, perspective, and trends in 2022. So Simon is the partner and chief strategy officer of Engager, and he's described by his peers as one of the most influential persons within the Swedish marketing and advertising space. Working for Google and Philips, Simon is now a partner at Engager, the largest independent Facebook agency in Europe. Simon is also a popular speaker on digital marketing and digitalization and has been speaking for Tesla, NATO, and BMW, to name a few. And a year ago, he has just published his first book on digitalization. So without further ado, let's welcome Simon with the topic Facebook and Instagram strategies, perspectives, and trends in 2022. Simon.
Thank you very much. No applause, but I assume there are some digital applause out there. Great to be here, and thank you very, very much for joining this session and taking time out to listen to me. And my hopes are that you, after this session, will have some inspiration on how you and your organization can think and reason around Facebook and Instagram marketing. But I will also present a few enablers, and those are things that I would recommend organizations and individuals to act on already today. So even though my topic is a bit macro, there is still a few more tangible pieces that you can take with you. And during this super fancy presentation that you heard about me, most of all, I'm actually a normal person and a father of 2, but I also do the work described. And as mentioned, I did publish a book last year. It looks like this, and I'm not showing it to promote it because it's only in Swedish, so it's only a few might be interested. But the point I want to make is that the purpose of this book was for me to understand how organizations and companies best can adapt to the digitalization that is ongoing, where social media is one part of that. And the big conclusion, which was kind of also simple and basic, but that is about the adaptation. We all must adapt to the circumstances around us in order to be successful and competitive. And then if you're a smart person, you might ask yourself, how do we then adapt? Well, I would say that the first and most important phase, that is to seek knowledge and seek understanding. Because once you understand things, then it's also much easier to actually adapt. And that is the purpose of this keynote that I will present now in a few seconds. That is for you guys to get some more information, inspiration on how you can adapt. And what I will present, you will need to interpret in your own context, in your own situation, and try to make sense of how can we as an organization, or how can I as an individual, how can I work with these insights, and how can I make myself more competitive? So with no further ado, I will do as we always do, share a presentation with you. And the theme, I branded it, is 2022, let's go, because I think it's good to have some kind of a positive angle to it as well. And this is 2022 is indeed a very interesting year because there are a lot of things happening, both from legislative side, but also when it comes to the platforms that we need to be aware of. And as I was presented, I'm part of a company called Engager. We are the industry leader in Europe when it comes to meta marketing. We're also now looking into TikTok more and more, which I think is very interesting. And what I will talk about is not only my own insights, it is very much insights from my peers here at Engager. We are close to 80 people. And we have an office here in Stockholm, where I am right now. We also have one in Berlin, one in Copenhagen, and soon one in Oslo, in Norway. So if you live in Oslo, if you speak Norwegian, please apply. We have plenty of options available out there. And we've been in this industry for 10 years, which is long in this sense. And I think one of the reasons that we have been able to survive and also prosper is because we have a mindset of always learning, always trying to identify what is happening and how can we actually work with those findings. And I think that is a key for all successful organizations today. And talk more about, because learning can, of course, be to learn Ads Manager or to learn Google Analytics super well, or to learn to write copy. But I think more on a macro level, where I spend my days, I think it's also important to understand that we live in a world where we very much have to manage the unknown. And that sounds perhaps a bit philosophical, but we come from a world also within digital marketing and social marketing and Facebook and Instagram marketing, where we have assumed that many things have been certain, and that the big players have been the big players, and no one could challenge them. And also that tracking was done in one way and it will always be done in one way, that the KPIs that you had, they were the right ones. But I think if you as an organization and as an individual can accept in a way that we are slowly and also rapidly in some senses going into a world where we don't really know what's going to come. So we need to be able to survive and also manage that uncertainty. And there's a lot of people who think about the future. I'm one of those. Another trade that also thinks a lot about the future, that is people who work on the stock market. There are stock exchanges all over the world, and the value of a stock is not actually, that doesn't represent what the company is worth today. That represents what the future and what people hopefully think it will be valued in the future. And we saw an example of that a few weeks back when Meta, the share dropped 26% during one day. That is, of course, an astronomous figure. I mean, it's so much money that doesn't really exist because it's not realized. But that was a big indicator that for several reasons, the stock market no longer thought that Meta was going to be as successful as it has been before. And then one might ask why, and yeah, I think there are several reasons, but particularly the daily active users didn't increase for the first time ever. And what does it mean? Will it mean that Meta will go bankrupt? No, it doesn't. But it means that if you work with marketing, you also need to adapt to a new reality, and that new reality is that perhaps Meta has, or Facebook in particular, has reached its peak when it comes to users. And even more importantly, there are other aspects that is challenging Facebook in particular on their throne. And there are two things that has had a big impact on Facebook as a company, but also on other social media platforms. One is Apple and iOS 14.5. If you work within marketing, digital marketing, you are well aware. And this is, again, a good example of how we as marketing people or the marketing community needs to embrace the unknown, because tracking as we have known it no longer exists, because the results are different. And that will change even further once Google Chrome takes away the third-party cookie tracking, meaning that you can't track those anymore, and that is going to happen by the end of the year. Simultaneously, we see that European Union and the States, they are forming an alliance against the big tech companies, particularly on tracking. So tracking is changing a lot, and that also challenges the profits of Facebook and others. And I think the other one that is a big game changer is TikTok, a platform that I wouldn't say came from nowhere, because it didn't, but it during a very rapid movement, it managed to get last year in December, it crossed the 1 billion user mark. And App Annie, which is an analytical company, they believe that by the end of this year, which we are in right now, TikTok will reach 1.5 billion users. So a super strong company on a super strong trend. And that also affects, of course, Facebook and Instagram to some extent, because if young people go to TikTok instead of Facebook, well, then there won't be any new users to fill the seats of the old ones. And I've been mentioning Facebook as a platform many times now, but I think one of the more important and more innovative platforms in the Meta family at the moment, that is instead Instagram. And the person you see here is Adam Mosseri. He's the CEO of Instagram. I strongly recommend you to follow him on Instagram. He posts a lot of interesting things and videos. This is a screen dump from a video that he made around Christmas, and where he said that going forward, Instagram will focus on creators, which makes sense because they need to have someone putting up content on their feeds. Also, video. Instagram is no longer an image company; it's a video company. Shopping, which is also interesting because all platforms want to do shopping today, and messaging, which is perhaps more of a customer service perspective, could be interesting. But at least to my understanding and how I see things, Instagram is the platform now that drives innovation very much when it comes to new features, new functions, and particularly when it comes to challenging TikTok with Reels that you probably heard about. But if I would be like a trend agent looking for trends in social media, I would look much more on what Instagram is doing than in what Facebook is doing, because Instagram is indeed much more innovative. So how can you use these things related to the unknown to have your organization grow? Well, here are two enablers for growth that I see. One is to excel in tracking, not just being able to track, but being really good at tracking, and also understand how you can help your clients if you're an agency, help your brand if you're a brand. But tracking is the part where we know very, very little how it will be, and therefore you must understand it very, very well in order to provide value. And given the pace of change and also innovation from these platforms, I think all brands should devote time and resources to be early adopters. And that means trying out new features, see if it works. Also to understand where the platforms are moving, what direction are they taking. And it's easy to say that you want to be an early adapter, but as with all things, you need to allocate time, usually resources as well, in order to actually evaluate experiments that you do. But tracking and an innovative mindset, that will take you very far. I call the platform Meta because that is what they changed the name to a while back, and Metaverse is the big bet for Facebook. And Metaverse as a whole, it's more of a concept, I would say, that has brought a lot of attention to Facebook. But it's important to remember that a full-scale metaverse is many, many years away. None of that will actually provide value to any of us today. But what is interesting is that there are aspects of the metaverse that we can see hints of today that I think we can somehow profit from if we understand it. This is from Instagram and from their augmented reality shopping feature. So you can actually shop, in this case, a pair of sunglasses, try them on. And this is one example, because it is really augmented reality and virtual reality that are the core technical foundations of the metaverse. And we all know the current limitations of virtual reality, but augmented reality, there are a lot of interesting things happening. Facebook has Spark AR, which is an interesting tool. I also recommend looking at Snapchat. They're super good when it comes to working with augmented reality. Pinterest have also launched new features where you can like buy a sofa and place it using AR in your living room. So that is another interesting thing. And what I think is that we are going to see more and more brands using augmented reality, because what we have seen in just some early tests with brands is that using augmented reality is a new way to capture the attention of the user, and also getting the user to spend time with your brand. Because that is a big challenge today, as people swipe the feed, scroll the feed very, very fast. So this is one version. I'm pretty sure during the year we'll see more and more functionalities adapted to AR in both Facebook and in Instagram. So keep your eyes out for that. And the technology aspect of the metaverse is one thing, and these are just early stage examples of that. But the metaverse will be exactly as the feeds are today, in the sense that you need creators to be there, and that is another thing that has become, I think, extremely interesting during the last few years, and that will keep on building, and that is the creator economy. You see all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you can name it. They want to cater for the creators, so the creators actually wants to be on their platform. And there are so many niche creators today. You see here Miss Excel. It's a woman. She only posts stuff about Excel. Another one is a creator from the UK who focused mostly on cleaning. So very niche categories, but they are both super big. The one on your right hand side, she has over 2 million followers. So there is a big interest, and I think it becomes more and more important to understand how the creator economy functions, because on Instagram, creators are a big part. Also on TikTok, it is super important to one, understand how the economy works around them, and also how you as a brand can benefit from them if you want to develop that further. And the reason why creators are important is because we scroll today so fast. Average time spent per post in the feed is 1.6 seconds. So you have very little time to grab the attention. And here I think many of the creators are really skilled, because they know their audience and they know what their audience wants. So they know exactly how to post. And this is something that we as an agency, but also you guys as brands, can learn very much from. So the enablers from this section for growth, I would say, is to embrace technology. There are a lot of new technologies out there. I mean, augmented reality. And it's not about that it needs to be a new technology. It's how we actually can use the technology. But in order to do that, we need to also understand how the technology works in order to create results from these platforms. Because it is always about trying to stay one step ahead of perhaps not all competition, but trying to stay ahead of the competitors in the feed, so the viewers and the users actually stop at your post. And I think all brands and agencies and also individuals, we can all have an influencer or a creator mindset. And with that, I mean trying to, one, connect with your audience, like to get a dialogue. That is something that's very rare today. But also to truly understand what your audience wants, and then post that. and perhaps also take a niche, find a niche that you believe in, that's useful for you, and become thought leaders within that niche. Now we're going to move on from the future and from perhaps metaverse light into something that I personally think is super important, and that is trust. And trust can seem like a strange word to use when you talk about social media, but all communication and all relationships are based on trust. If you don't trust an email you get, or the sender of an email you get, you don't open it. If you for some reason don't trust the sender of a post, then you won't click on the post. And I think during today, with all the terrible things that happen in the world, with Russia's invasion, misinformation, and the political split in the world as a whole, I think for a brand, it's even more important to promote trust and to try to build that. And trust is built from two aspects. It's about the rationale, meaning that you actually have proved that you can sell a T-shirt, for example, or sell a pair of shoes. You've proven that you can make the shoes. You can also you can build them, and you can also send them to the person who bought it. But also emotional, because it's not enough with a rational approach to build trust. You also need to have an emotional approach, showing that you actually understand the users and that you cater for the needs. That, my friends, is how you can build trust. And trust is important in many aspects. I talked earlier about tracking, and tracking is very much comes down to how I, as an individual, how I feel about giving away my data to another organization, because I might not trust how to use it. I might not be comfortable with how they process it. It can be different variables. But I think there is one thing where you can actually work with trust in order to build trust with your community. You can also receive, in this case, more data and then create a better product. One company that I find very inspiring when it comes to this, that is IKEA, Swedish company from the beginning. And they declared a while ago that they made a data promise to its customers. And the screen that you see on your left is in Swedish, but it's an example of how they also communicate this, that they write in a very plain language, so everyone can understand what IKEA actually does with the data that they keep, and they are very transparent with that. They understand that everyone is not comfortable with giving up their data, and they try to cater for those needs. So I think it's a good example of that. You show the rationale. You as IKEA did here, they actually showed that, okay, we are doing something to build trust, and two, they are communicating it to get the emotional aspect of it. And this can, of course, be applied to many different sectors. But I think it's important to remember that as a brand, you need to walk the talk and also actually do it. You need to connect with your users on a level on an emotional level, but you also need to display on a rational level why they should trust you, give away your data, or why they should purchase something from you. If it's not that you always have the cheapest price points. Because there are quite a lot of topics that I think are very relevant in the Western world today, and that are also very relevant to the users, to the potential consumers, and also internally at your company, at your organization. And these are just examples, but diversity is a good thing too, because people can relate to that, and it's important for many. Equality, mental well-being, and of course climate. And you see some aspects that you can talk about to build trust and get a conversation going with your users. And I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Tom's. It's a shoe manufacturer. And they have, if you look at their Instagram feed, which the screen here is a screen dump from, on their feed, I would say every sixth or fifth post is not about shoes. It's about what Tom as a company does for the community that they are a part of. So they communicate a lot about this to get a connection with the users. Then, of course, they sell shoes that are nice and so forth. But they have kind of understood that for today's consumer, of course, price matters. But for many, it also matters how you are as a company, how your supply chain looks, and so forth. And as Toms have discovered this, they are also communicating that. And since they can prove and they have a great track record, it is it's no challenge for them to communicate that. You do have a challenge if, for example, Shell or any other oil company. Then it's kind of hard to talk about those things. You can end up being greenwashed or accused of greenwashing. But opening up to talk about subjects that actually means something for your users, that will enable you to actually get a conversation going, I think, and to build trust. Because once you build trust, people want to be a part of you. Yes, like with your friends. I mean, I assume you trust most of your friends because you have chosen to be with them. And the same it is with brands. We choose to be with brands. But you as a brand or as an organization, you also need to display this for the users. And this is very much a long-term game. This is nothing that drives sales tomorrow, but it's, I would say, a part of a bigger branding effort that also could enable you to be different you a bit from the rest of the feed, because the challenge today is that much of the branding and advertising we see looks very, very much the same. And if you can post something on a consistent basis that actually says something a bit different, then I would say there's a big chance that people actually will read your stuff and start connecting with you, and even go to your webpage. Again, making a reference to the creator economy, the creators and the influencers of today, they know what the users want. That's why they post it. And the same should be with brands, instead of just saying things that we think is important, because that's not always the case, that those are the things that users find important. And ways to build growth around this, I think finding your way as an organization, as an individual, to build trust with your community, with potential clients, potential consumers, potential users, but find ways that you can be both rational and simultaneously emotional to have that connection. Because without trust, I think it's going to be really hard to be competitive unless you are the one who offers the cheapest price. And that is never a long-run business model. And also, dare to talk about stuff that actually matters. Dare to say things that might be a bit uncomfortable, as long as you can stand behind it. I know during the early days of the pandemic, many brands were very uncomfortable about saying anything because they didn't really know what to say. But saying nothing is never really a good idea. Instead, you just say that, you care about people who have been suffering for strange reasons, for various reasons. And I think we saw, at least here in Scandinavia that I could see, we saw a change when it came to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There it was companies and brands and organizations were very, very fast on talking about what they did, why it was important to them. And those are things that actually do matter to people. Maybe that situation was easier to communicate around, for sure. But I think the big lesson between these two, I wouldn't say incidents, but terrible actions, was that the pandemic kind of paralyzed everyone. But what we've seen now with Russia's invasion, many brands realized, okay, we actually need to say something. We need to take a stand because people do care. And I have during this presentation talked a lot about the macro levels and how you can think and reason as a brand. But it's of course still super important and will always be to work with advertising in the right way, to use business manager in the right way, and to be on top of that and understand and test new functions. But as we see both in the Google world, but in the Facebook world as well, much of these aspects and functions are being more and more automatic driven, which kind of limits the ability to act within the specific advertising sphere. What is then you can be competitive on instead, that is the content, to make sure that you always post content that is thumb stopping, meaning that people, when they scroll, will stop with the thumb. And how do you know when you have great content? Well, the only way to find out is to do an A/B test, and then you see what actually works. And then also make sure that you find time and resources to analyze and see what actually went well, why did it went well, and things that didn't go so well, how can we improve that? Because we as users, we are so spoiled today with awesome content that if someone publishes something or posts something that is semi-good, people will just don't trust it. They will just keep on scrolling. And that is a challenge because it is time consuming. It is also resource consuming to produce good content. But I think there is no real option today. If you want to be competitive, you need to really have an A game when it comes to content, and also when it comes to targeting and tracking and everything. Because I think many of you, if you do advertise on Facebook today, it is the same trend as you see in Google, meaning that prices are increasing pretty much by the day. So it's becoming more and more expensive. So the money you spend on the platform is just going up. So then make sure that you get value for the money that you do spend, and that you do by understanding your users, of course, and also understanding the platforms, and trying to stay ahead of the curve. Perhaps using some of the perspectives I presented today, and just making sure that you exceed the user's expectations, because it is a very competitive world out there. With that, I would like to say thanks to everyone. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I hope you were able to find some new inspiration, and maybe you can also work with the neighbors going forward. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe next week. So thank you all very much. Let's see if we have any questions. Yes.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's a really awesome inspirational content, and I think we have quite a number of questions, in fact, that we can address. There's plenty of time for those questions.
Yes, I'll start with the one from Kelowna. Do you think Instagram and Facebook can compete with TikTok in the future? It's a good question. I personally don't think that that Reels, in the way that it is now, will compete with TikTok because it's too much of a copycat, and the functionality is not the same, and the user base is different. But I always try to remember when 2016 Instagram just stole the idea of stories from Snapchat, just straight on. And today, no one knows that Snapchat was the inventor of stories. That was just one function, so it might be not maybe a bad parallel, but and also Snapchat at the time were very small. So I think I don't think they're gonna be able to compete. I think they're gonna be on the same market, kind of competing over the same advertising budget, but I don't think they will have the same users. I think the user spread will be a bit different. We see that already now that Facebook is older than TikTok, which makes sense. But I don't think that they will create a product that competes directly with. I mean, Reels is a try, but it's not sufficient, to be honest. So no, I don't think so. What are some tips from keep Instagram and Facebook from losing importance and reach? Importance is a very subjective word, so I don't really know how to answer that. But when it comes to reach, organic reach, it's a dead street. I mean, you don't see any reach at all today from the organic levels, and that is, I mean, really because these are advertising companies. They have a business model of advertising, so they want you to spend money there. Of course, you can find these odd tricks from day to day, but you can't build a sustainable social strategy today on organic. Instead, I would say that what I might think be more important is the communication between companies and users. Adam Mosseri from Instagram, he talked about messaging being more important. We also see, for example, Messenger. I mean, it's a lot of companies who discuss with the users on those messaging platforms. So there, I see a potential. But when it comes to organic, it's pretty lost to be very honest. So I think you need to advertise in order to get reach. And then we have a question on the best hashtag strategy for Instagram. Well, there are, I think maximum, we usually recommend to our clients maximum 3 to 4, because otherwise it looks scattered, doesn't look professional. And there are several lists, like most popular hashtags per country and so forth, that you can go and find online. And in addition to that, I would say, again, go and look at influencers within that niche and see what hashtags do they use that are generic that you can also use. And how often do you post on Instagram? That is how often do you have something to say? How often do you have something that you actually want to? And I'm not being like cynical or trying to be funny here, but that's always like the question: do I have something to post that actually creates value for my community? If the answer is no, you shouldn't post. But at least try to find a frequency that works for you. Like if you're going to have nice material, it takes a bit of time and prepping to do it. So my best recommendation there is to make a plan, like an agenda. See, okay, from now to summer, okay, what do we want to achieve? How many times, when do we need to post to achieve that? How can we create material to do that? And also, once you are creating material, create a lot, because you can always reuse stuff and you can always twist it in new ways. Mr. Turker, do you agree with the term "the more content, the bigger growth" when it comes to social media content creation? No, I would say the higher quality content, the more relevant content, the more adapted content, bigger growth, and also different kinds of content serves different purposes. If you want to work with brand building and only get a lot of reach, video is great. If you want to drive leads to your homepage, video is not great. Then it's better to use a lead ad. So no, I would not say that more content is better for growth, but if you have relevant content that actually serves a purpose that you get results from, then it creates growth. Is there any alternative if your country has not Reels yet? No, they release it after time after time. in general, what are the content pillars that you can advise in kinds of niche? Uh, there's several different ways to look at this. You could look at this in the way of how the consumer or user is actually using the platforms. Like is it Meta themselves, they talk about pitch, pun, plunge, play. How a lot of the time we're just scrolling the phone, looking for more like entertainment or just killing time. Then you need to have something entertaining. Then you also have the stage where people are actually looking for information. Then you need to be more informative. And then you have the more like the Google search phase where people are really looking for something. So that is one way, but it also depends very much on where you are as a brand. We work a lot with different e-commerce companies, and once if they're going to enter a new market, for example, go into the UK, and no one has ever heard of their brand in the UK, then they of course need to start with branding ads in the beginning to build a brand. And then once the community in the UK are aware of the brand, they can start with more converting ads. So the type of content, I would say, very much differs between um, where how aware your audience are about your brand, and also, of course, different people are in different stages of the customer funnel. So, but I mean, it's always good to be like informative, saying like what what solution you have, what problem you solve, and also as you get closer to the actual purchase or the conversion, uh, try to answer all the practical things like is shipping included, how long is the time, all of those things. So try to, with your content, answer the questions that your clients might have. That was a long answer that probably didn't answer your question. Um, okay, I am Simona. Do you know when payments for items will be reachable in some European countries? Because mm, yeah, regarding Facebook shops, that is the same. Uh, I'm just trying to. Okay, yeah. No, the direct purchasing from directly from an ad is still, as I understand it, under construction. It has to do with payment mostly, and um, but I what is interesting and what I think we should all remember for the future is that I mean Facebook Shop is a great indicator that all platforms they want to keep all traffic on their sites. No one you shouldn't leave the site ever, and that is I mean that's what WeChat in China is probably the best example in the world of that. Where you like never have to leave the app basically, and Facebook wants to do the same. But technically, we are not there yet. But they are adding on features like pretty much every day. Yes, the other day I saw that in the States now users can add products to a post. You don't have to be like the person who actually posted it. Um, so, and e-commerce or shopping is a super big focus for this platform because that's where the money is. I mean, if you as a platform can prove I generated the sales, today Google is the lead in that. But if you can do that, then you have a lot more value for the advertisers. So this is an area where there's a lot of work undergoing, and I think we'll see just see more and more of that. Jenny, analyzing trends. Did you no, do you use data from the Facebook ad library? I don't work with that myself. It is you can see like a trend for one client where you look at business manager and so forth, but to see trends, it's a bit tricky because it's always related to one the market you're in, the country, but also the industry that you're in. So you need to take those factors into consideration, and also the target group. So it is, I would say, for example, sometimes people ask me, what is a good CTR? Yeah, that is just impossible to say because it always varies. But when I see analyze trends, I usually see on a on a macro level, like what is happening in the world, because I know that will affect the platform, and that will then affect Sweden and Nordics as well. Um,
I think that should be our last question. We've just reached the end of our time, and you need to get on to your next panel discussion, Simon. So I would say if you have any more questions, audience, you can follow with Simon to the next session
Yes.
where he'll be part of a panel discussion in the performing track. So thank you very much for your insights, Simon, and I think we all really enjoyed it and have picked up some good inspiration and some ideas for what to do next. So thank you very much, and and for the rest of you, if you would like to stick around for the next session, from Stephanie Gutnick about digital, about billboards, adding digital out of home to the media mix. Stick around with me. If not, if you're more interested in Facebook, Instagram trends marketing, follow with Simon to the performance marketing track. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.